With everybody, this is Michael Levitas with Yakov Spektor, an immigration attorney, our participating attorney in JurisQ Legal Network. And of course, we always love having Yakov back. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, Michael. Hi, everyone. Great to be with you.
Thank you. And today we're going to talk about a few things. As you know, every week we post a new video with Yakov. And today we're going to talk about a special act called VAWA, VAWA, Violence Against Women Act. It gives special rights and protections for women and others, we'll get into it, who get abused. You can possibly get legal status in America. So, Yakov, let's dissect it, how it works. Can you please explain what was the purpose?
That's a really, that's going to be a really deep topic. Yes. Okay, but everyone don't get scared. I'll try to dissect it for you so that it's easy to understand. Yes, right. It's called Violence Against Women Act, right? So the idea is that, hey, you know, if you are a victim of domestic violence, okay, you should not really worry, about potentially not, potentially being deported or not getting your status just because your husband was an a-hole, right?
Okay.
If you can prove to the government that you were a victim of domestic abuse, and we'll talk about that in a second, but if you can prove it to the government, hey, you could apply for the green card by yourself, not through your husband. You don't need your husband to be involved, and a lot of times people say, hey, you know what, my husband was not just abusive, but he was also threatening to deport me, not to file paperwork on my behalf, to sabotage paperwork on my behalf, to complain to the immigration. And a lot of people, they just don't know, that what they do, they're afraid of their husbands deporting them, and they might stay in an abusive relationship because of that. And so as a matter of fact, if you or your loved ones, or anyone who is in that type of an abusive relationship, or you heard of someone who is staying with his or her husband, in our country it could be, it could be any kind of marriage. So, but if you hear that somebody's staying in the abusive relationship just because he's afraid of immigration consequences, that's not really something to be afraid of. Have that person talk to someone like me. As a matter of fact, it's considered abuse. It's one of the elements of the abuse, and that actually takes us very smoothly to a topic that I think a lot of people might want to be interested in. What's abuse?
Exactly. What's considered abuse? It has to be physical?
Not necessarily. So it does not have to be the physical abuse. It could be emotional abuse. It could be a pattern of emotional abuse. I had a situation when a husband kept his wife in the apartment, would not let her see any friends of hers. So eventually all the friends dropped off. Essentially, she was under house arrest.
Unbelievable.
Not being able to open up any paperwork under her name, didn't have a bank account. So she was a prisoner in her own home.
Wow.
Even though he hasn't laid a finger in her, you all could understand, you all could see how this could be considered abuse. But of course, if you just have arguments with your spouse from time to time, like everyone else does, that might not really qualify, So, you probably want to talk to someone like me to figure out if what your husband or your wife is doing is abusive, because it's not only not only women, men are also eligible to apply for that, if their wives are abusive. And I think we should have a separate conversation
exactly
specifically for men, because it's super important for men to realize that they could also be victims of domestic violence. A lot of men.
So Yakov, that's a great topic, and people are very confused about it because the name of the act is Violence Against Women Act. So we should have a separate video after this one just on that topic. But going back to the basics, the 101 of Violence Against Women Act, just to get it straight. Basically, if you are here without a status, you either have a green card, you're waiting for citizenship based on marriage, or I don't know, you got engaged. you're in a relationship.
I'm sorry, Michael. Yeah, well, yeah, just to, I'm interrupting you just so our audience can understand one thing, you know, it's if you already have your green card, okay, you're probably okay.
Okay, got it.
If it's a temporary green card, talk to me. If you're in an abusive relationship, there is still something we can do. But a Violence Against Women Act, that's primarily for those of you who have no status here, who are married to a US citizen or a permanent resident, and your husband or your wife is abusive. Now, you know, if you're asking me whether your husband and your wife is abusive, you know what, it's a good question, but you probably know it when you see it, okay? You want to confirm it with me. Hey, you know what, maybe just, you know, it's just regular fights or altercations, but you know, most of the time the victims who are victims of domestic abuse know that they're victims of domestic abuse.
But of course, the more evidence you have, the better.
Always, but an interesting situation that I'd rather say one thing about Violence Against Women Act that I want people to know about is that you could get your case approved just on the basis of your story alone.
Okay.
Because the government realizes that, hey, abused spouses might not have any access to any paperwork. It just might not happen, especially let's say if you're already if your abuser spouse kicked you out, you're in a shelter, you have no access to any of the paperwork. So, you know, that's, you know, as long as there was an instance of abuse, you are a victim of domestic violence, it might be something that we are able to do for you. It's a very easy concept. It is a very difficult application, but it's a very easy concept. If
So
you're
it's a great mechanism.
Violence, I might be able to get you your green card.
It's a great mechanism if your spouse is holding the passport, the citizenship over your head and basically extorting you by saying, if you report me for abuse, I'm going to make sure you don't get your green card. Now with VAWA, he cannot do that. Or she cannot do that.
It's an empty threat.
Exactly. Okay, very good. That's a very important thing to know. We thank you for this information. And of course, we're going to follow up with more details in a separate video, how this act could possibly apply also to men who get abused physically or emotionally or psychologically. Please follow our videos on Facebook, on YouTube, and stay tuned for more great answers by our attorneys that have the information for you to educate you. And of course, we have Yakov's phone number on the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions about your specific situation, do not hesitate. Don't be afraid. You can call. Information will be kept confidential, and Yakov Spektor will consult you on your case. Thank you, and have a good day. Thank you, Yakov.